Hello everybody, hope you are having a wonderful day. Today's video is going to be on how to have more emotionally engaging conversations. Now a lot of people, when they speak to others, strangers, maybe even people that they find attractive or are maybe bosses or co-workers, they tend to have very boring, logical, dull conversations where there's not a lot of emotion exchanged. And you may look at other people, other guys, other girls, and when they have conversations with other people, it's like, what the hell? They get along with everyone so easily. They're able to laugh, they're able to connect so much easier than you are. And there's a simple reason because of that. If you are suffering from what I would say is the dead convo syndrome, which you are just way too logical in conversations. The way that you want to be engaging is by actually having some sort of your own personal emotion into it. But if you don't have anything like that, slowly over time, the conversation's going to go duller and duller and duller, and it's just going to come to that silence, and it's going to be like, well, yep, there's nothing else to talk about. So let us fix that problem for you today. The first thing that we have to go over is conversational threads. So before we even talk about the emotion, let's talk about conversational threads. So when you run out of things to say, it's usually because of, like, there's nothing else in the conversation. I feel like we've talked about everything, but that's not true. A conversational thread is a subject of what you guys are talking about. So you go up to someone and you say, oh my God, that is an amazing jacket. And you talk about the jacket for a little bit, talk about what store she got the jacket from or he got the jacket from, how much the jacket was, how do they like the jacket. Eventually, you're going to talk about the jacket so much, it's going to become boring. And if you talk about the same things over and over again, which people hear all the time, and I hear all the fucking time, so job, school, family, like all these things are super fun and amazing, but you just, like, it's like basically all people talk about. And then when you talk to strangers, it's like taxes, it's inflation, it's the government, and you're like, oh my God, please just, it's like, please kill me. There's like nothing emotionally fulfilling out there. And I used to work a job in which I would talk to a lot of people, hundreds of people a day, and you know, the conversations were good, but a lot of the other people were just really bad at having fun conversations, or like having things where it wasn't just like, oh, school, oh, job, oh, it was like the same thing over and over again. And you can talk about these things, but this isn't where the fun of a conversation is. The fun of a conversation is in between them, So when I bring up a jacket, or when I bring up school, it's not me then asking another logical question of, oh, do you like it? Oh, what made you take that? Oh, why you work there? So how long you been working there? Do you like it there? It just, oh my God, right? It's just like, I've answered this question so many times. It's repeat on autopilot. So you spice it up, you make it more fun by not doing that shit. And instead, you can make statements. This is the easiest way. You can make a cold statement, observation about why that person may have done it. So you could still talk about work, ask someone where they work, but instead of going into a logical question of, oh, how long did you work there? Why did you pick that? And, you know, going into the reason of why someone would pick that, it's better than how long, or, you know, does it involve, like more of a boring question. But even better is you can add your own to this conversation by making a statement. So if you ask a girl, where do you work? And she says, I work in law. Don't ask another question. Give to the conversation. Every time you ask a question, unless it's like you're already in a flow and you really want to know, now I'm rapping, but anytime you ask a question, you are taking from the conversation. You are making it so the other person has to use their brain power and work up a question, work up an answer to answer your question. And they have to keep doing it. And if you keep going and going with this, it's just only them giving to the conversation, and you're just taking. Bad, bad, bad. So you need to give to the conversation with your own opinions, beliefs, and observations about the world. You have lived years up to this point. You have a lot of things that you can say and do. Let me just see if I'm still recording. I am, thank the Lord Jesus. But the way that you add to this conversation, there's a statement, you work in law. Oh, you must be strict. I just made that up on the spot. But does it make sense? You're in law, you're strict. Maybe she's a lawyer. You can say something like that. So, are you going to prosecute me if I jaywalk? Are you going to do, just something related to that? What makes it so much more fun? And when you do that, you make a comment like that. First thing what that is going to show is that you're confident. It's then going to show that you're competent because it kind of makes sense. It's kind of on the spot. It's a bit witty. And it's also going to show that you're authentic. Because if you were to go in a super boring conversation, and do you really give a fuck about that? Do you really care about how long she's worked there, why she's working there, or about these things that she probably doesn't even care about too? Now maybe if it's her favorite job in her world, okay. See how she feels about answering those questions. If she feels very upbeat about answering those type of questions, then she probably doesn't have a problem with that. But if she's showing body language and energy of this is a really boring conversational thread. She's fucking, I talk about my jacket for another 20 minutes. Holy shit. Then you want to add some fun to that. So in something like this, you must be so strict. Just a thing you can throw out there. Just such a small thing. But it makes the conversation so much different. Now you're framing this as it's a fun conversation. This isn't a boring, I'm just going to talk to you about the whatever, nothing's going to happen. No, it's going to be, I'm setting the frame as this is fun, this is playful, and now if you want to reciprocate that energy and be open and be fun and be playful with me too, that is there for you. But I set that frame first. I'm not looking for you to set that frame. I'm a man, I do walk how I want to, I live my life as I want. And so I set that frame because I wanted to. And if you're welcome to come in, you're welcome to do that. If you don't want to, totally okay. It shows confident because you're the one setting it. You're opening yourself up for some sort of rejection if she doesn't want to go into that frame. Competent, it's relevant to the moment, kind of makes sense. It's a bit witty. And authentic because you're not going down this logical boring when you really don't care, and you're making it playful because you want to give her a good time in the conversation or the person you're talking to. You want to give them a good time. You give them a good time by hitting them, by giving them this emotion. You being fun. One of the main things you have to keep in mind if you want to have a very engaging, emotional conversation is that you must be engaged in the conversation too. If you are stuck in your head, meaning thinking about the next thing to say, how you're being judged, how other people are perceiving you, what could happen, what has happened, you're not being engaged and you're being stuck in your head. This is the opposite of a flow state. A flow state is when things are happening naturally from the point of thinking to expressing. There is nothing in between. When you talk about basketball players or athletes going into a flow state, they're not thinking about what's happening. It just comes so fluid and natural to them. This is because they have a very good foundation, a fundamental understanding. And so they have this ability to turn off their brain at certain points in time when they're not feeling so anxious, when they've gotten into this flow and rhythm, that everything just comes natural. This is usually what has happened when we were on our primal hunter and gatherer tribes times, where we're out hunting, doing shit that was always keeping us in the moment. But now we're have a lot more social judgment. How is this guy perceiving me? How is this? Is my clothes okay? Is my hair okay? We're always on our phones more. We're not talking to other people. And so our brains are still the same, but the environment has changed. So for us to be in a flow state, it's much harder of the time. Now, you still may do it if you're doing deep work, if you're maybe really engaged at your work, but it only really does come when you are engaged. And it comes, and it should come, in conversation more than anything else. When you are at a party, you should be in a flow state, meaning when you try to get into your head, it's actually hard. When you try to sit down and try not to think about anything else, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to have fun. I'm going to go in my head and think about past things or future things. If you're in a flow state, that should be hard. That should be hard to do. And I know this because I've been at a party before where I've been like, I'm having such a good time. Let me go in my head and try overthinking. And it just didn't work. I was like, this is stupid. I'm going to have fun. That's how it should be like 98% of your life. But things happen. So that's why you're here. That's why I'm making this video. When you are in a conversational flow, you'll be engaged and things will happen naturally. Meaning, you'll think things and say them and they'll just come so authentic, so natural, so confident. And you won't second think yourself or second doubt yourself at all for what you're saying. Even when I'm up here speaking to this goddamn camera, my phone. When I was first doing it back in January, it was much harder to speak and be able to communicate in a way where I wasn't thinking about everything. I would say a couple words and be like, okay, what do I say next? What do I say next? But over repetition, I kept doing it. I got better and better. It came to a point where I can now yap in front of this camera and provide the value I give without having to stop and just be like, oh my God, am I okay? Am I doing okay? Without having all these internal thoughts. It's just happening as it happens. To practice being in a social flow state, meaning you're able to talk how you like, express yourself how you like, because socializing is basically just communicating and expressing yourself. It's through words, yes, but it's also through body language and how you frame things. That's socializing. It's just a giant cover word for how you interact with reality, mainly other people, and how things are being perceived. So when you go up and talk to someone, you may have this thing of social anxiety. So maybe there's a cute girl you want to go up and say hello to, but you have this immense anxiety. This anxiety comes from a lot of things, but mainly it comes from low confidence in that situation. Meaning, if you were to had done this conversation or had done that situation 100 million times over and had always succeeded, do you think you would still be as self-doubtful of yourself when you go and did it? No. And so purely what is the reason of this feeling is that you don't know what is going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. And if you don't do that 100 million times, which most people aren't going to do, you'll probably always have this feeling, and that's okay. But it's how you deal with that feeling which is the problem. If you deal with that feeling by just shutting down and never doing what you want to do, you're going to be trapped in your head forever. So the way that you don't do this is by doing it. And this word you're going to need, and that is courage. So you're going to need to build the courage to get something that is called reference experiences. Reference experiences are experiences you can look back in time at and observe how you were acting, observe the feedback that you were getting from other people. And you can think to yourself, hey, I was able to be that open and confident, and people actually liked it, and I was okay with myself, and I loved how that was going. I want to be like that all the time. Why can't I be like that more often? That is building reference experiences. When I was younger, I didn't have any good reference experiences. I didn't have any good conversations or people I had a good connection with or laughing with other people a lot of the time. Most of the time I felt very scared and anxious because of my family, because of my environment, because of the things around me. And I was never able to be like that. And so what you need to build is reference experiences. I then started going out and socializing, talking to girls, talking to guys, talking to older people, young, everybody, just talking to everybody, giving them good energy, giving them compliments, asking them how their day was, giving them good energy when I talk to them. All this stuff gave me reference experiences where I then told my brain, my brain said, oh, it's okay to be expressive. Now, there were certain things that I did, that I talked about, that I went through in conversations with other people, and everything I said and everything I did, which I was a little bit anxious about saying, but I said it anyways because I really wanted to, that gave me another reference experience. Whenever there was a girl I was super scared to talk to, but I would build up the courage, go over and talk to her, even if I was so scared that I didn't do well, I still had the reference experience of, hey, I was able to go up, do that, and not die. Maybe I can go up, do that, and not die, and maybe get a word out. Maybe now get 2 words out. Maybe now I can start talking normally. Now I can maybe go up, have a conversation, feel more at ease in the conversation, then ask for maybe her contact information because I found her nice or pretty. Once you slowly build up those reference experiences, you can go back in time in your brain and say, hey, I've done this before. It's okay. I know how it's going to end. I know how it's going to end. And when you know how it's going to end, you're okay with it because you know all the steps in between of how you're going to feel. You know how this conversation may play out if you get bad feedback from the other person. They don't end up liking you. You're okay with that. And if they do end up liking you, you're okay with going forward and maybe even turning this interaction into a longer relationship between you two. Now, if this is something that you do want more help with, you can book a call in the description for either a 1-hour consultation call or for my coaching program, in which I help you personally, day by day, until you become the person who is able to be fun in conversations, flirt authentically, express yourself without this deep anxiety or overthinking. So if any of that sounds interesting and you want more help with that, that will be there. And with that, boys, I love you so much. Thank you for watching. Peace out.